Welcome to today's episode brought to you by Total Processing. We are joined by none other than Steve Oliver, the co-founder and CEO of Magpie, the platform that was set up in 2007 to buy and sell second-hand DVDs and CDs online. With headquarters in Stockport and offices in Atlanta, USA, the business listed on the London Junior AIM market with a valuation of $208 million in April 2021. All of this in less than 15 years. Welcome, Steve.
Thanks, Harry. Well researched.
That was some
good that's true. Some good sound bites, yeah. No, great to be here. Thanks
thank you very much. Yeah, brilliant. So if you could give us a quick overview on yourself, your upbringing as well, and what got you to where you are today.
We're sat here in the middle of Stockport, and I am born and bred Stockportian, so I grew up down the road here in the Heatons. And I guess the first relevant thing was to know that my dad was a small shopkeeper. He ran a sub-post office, which meant I've got retail in my blood. He had me behind the counter when I was 11 years old.
Nice.
Learning and helping customers and learning just the basics of I guess even at that very early age, sort of trading and commerce and sales and margin and all those kind of great things. I went to school in Manchester, went over to university in 89 to Sheffield, met the wife over there. Knew that I wanted to work in industry and do something with numbers, but chose to do psychology at university because I love people. Yeah. I love understanding and talking and understanding motivations behind people, etc. So did psychology. And then I did do some accountancy, so I've got a dangerously small amount of knowledge, I think is the expression, on accountancy. I'm part qualified, actually. Did a couple of roles in practice, but came into industry in my mid-20s when we moved back over here to Stockport. So, brilliant to be back here. And I do feel very passionately about the place, actually. I guess one of those very early things I learned from my dad is sort of being head of the community and making a difference and caring about your environment, your people, and Stockport, and that's very much where I am, really. So, those things I'm very passionate about. So I help out in Stockport as much as I can, sit on the big committee, chair Stockport Economic Alliance. So
brilliant.
Very passionate about the
local community.
Yeah.
Great to hear. So you went to university in Sheffield, then after that, what was your first position in industry?
So actually, I do tease myself about it because I couldn't face not being a student anymore. So I wanted to stay in Sheffield. I joined a fairly small, I think they call themselves small to medium size firm of chartered accountants.
Okay.
So I was doing ticking and bashing, junior auditing.
Okay.
In medium to, I did actually a couple of large listed clients actually over in Sheffield. So I stayed 18 months. Kath was doing her teacher training over there, who I'd met at university. So. But really, it was all about extending my student life.
Yeah.
So I stayed living in Broomhill, very much still in the social sort of aspect of life over there. Again, sort of learnt the basics of commerce and business, really, doing that auditing role.
Brilliant.
But I guess, what from those early stages, I really enjoyed analysing and looking at different businesses that I was going in and thinking, do I like this one? Does it feel like it's got a future? And, how does it feel like it exists and puts together? So, and actually then we looked at moving back over to Stockport. And I made the change over to a much smaller firm of accounts. I knew I wanted to work in smaller business. He says sitting there now, but that was the plan. But moved back over to Stockport when we were setting up home, basically, and I thought I can't carry on the student life forever. Wanted to move back over here and made the change to the smaller firm of accountants.
Okay, brilliant. So when did you move away from the accountancy side of things and then more into the sort of retail space? Because I know you eventually joined Music Zone.
Yeah, that's right. So I did do a couple of different finance roles, actually, one in manufacturing, but then, so let me get my timing right of joining Music Zone. So I joined as finance director and then became managing director at Music Zone in 2000. In fact, it was September 2000. And as I say, really, Music Zone was very small at that stage, but it ticked the retail box and it ticked the accountancy box. But what I saw with Music Zone is there was a wonderful founder who's still a friend of mine, Russ, who frankly, really loved the business, was very passionate about music. He was an ex-soul DJ at the Hass from many years ago, so I got on really well with Russ, but recognised that he wasn't really comfortable with that growing scale and formality that a growing business brings. So I joined when it was a handful of stores, and really saw this opportunity to sort of broaden my role into a more commercial role, but also think about corporately where that might lead me. And quite quickly I started to talk about Russ in terms of, well, what are your aspirations for the business? How far do you want to grow it? How long do you want to stay with it for? And basically within a couple of years started talking about potential for management buyout from Music Zone. And again, it was scaling, it was growing shops. We did an acquisition of MVC stores and bolted those on. So we actually got up to 100 stores at peak at Music Zone.
Wow.
But it was a hell of a ride. And again, like a couple of my previous manufacturing roles, being in finance, having started in finance, really very quickly wanted to get out into the wider aspects of commercial life and understanding how to build a business.
Yeah.
It was fascinating, to experience that and scale the business and start to build an amazing team of people, and indeed a lot of those people have come with me across to Magpie and
amazing.
Been my close colleagues and friends here.
Brilliant. So what was the primary reason that you left Music Zone then?
The industry changed very quickly at Music Zone. So if we fast forward a little bit to the mid-2000s, so what was happening then is CDs, DVDs were becoming under massive deflationary pressure. So if you think, that's when the Harry Potters were coming out and the Pirates of the Caribbean. So I'll use those as examples. Yeah. Supermarkets started selling them at lower sales price than we were buying them at.
Okay.
So Music Zone, which has set itself up very much as a value entertainment retailer, was now faced as looking expensive compared to supermarkets. Exactly the same commercial pressures as, say, HMV had. And also we were competing, if you also cast your mind back a bit, to the Play.coms, Amazons and one or two other online retailers who were basically, I'll call it exploiting, but using a VAT loophole where they could sell through the Channel Islands. So basically Music Zone is now competing against VAT-free websites and supermarkets selling stuff for less than cost.
Yeah.
That is tough.
Challenging.
Absolutely, and we've done a big scale up and we've got some private equity involved, etc. So the turn of 2006, 2007 was really, this was professional and personal heartbreak really, because the bank pulled the plug on us. We had a fairly inexperienced bank involved in the corporate setup, and for a really very small amount of debt, literally, in a retailer doing more than 100 million, it started with a 1, I can't remember the exact figure, but 1 point something million of debt. They got nervous, they got very worried about the market dynamics. The performance of the business actually, we were profitable year to date, had cash in the bank from Christmas, but they decided that they wanted to exit the business, as it were. So very quickly we were under pressure to try and refinance. Long story short, we basically, it was a distress sale, and it was sold to a division of HMV at the time.
Okay.
Of which I then had a choice, I could have stayed with the business maybe, but it wouldn't have felt the same.
Yeah.
I didn't want to stay with Music Zone. As I say, it was professional and personal heartbreak because the people aspect was, I'd met many great friends there. There was people had met each other, got married and had kids at Music Zone. So it was that first experience really of, really forming a fantastic team of people.
And is that where the idea for Music Magpie came from then?
It absolutely was, yeah. So I'd met Walt a few years earlier when he put a warehouse system in. So Walt Gleason's my co-founder at Music Magpie. Yeah. He became our IT and ops director, so I got to know Walt, saw what he could do technically. And he and I, towards the end of our time at Music Zone, just started to understand and experience I'm going to call it the power of used product and the margin of used product. Because, as I say, it was tremendous deflationary pressure on new product. But actually, there was a growing amount of people who were willing to sell their old pre-owned product because they were either exiting it or wanted to make room for more physical product. So they were willing to do a trade-in model in it. But equally, there was still a large amount of people who were still consuming physical product. So we just started trading some in over the counter and thinking, this is interesting. If we pay 50p, 75p or pound for old stuff, actually we weren't doing any refurbishing at that stage. We just put it straight back out, make a bit of margin on it. And around that time, it's fascinating, gain had just bought Game Station for about 70 million quid,
Wow.
though they were doing $1 million EBITDA, because Game wanted to learn how Game Station were doing used product, because they saw what they were doing and the fact they were thriving with this used model, because there was more margin to play.
Brilliant.
With.
So from Music Zone, though, you had a brief spell, I believe, at the Fragrance.
Yeah, I did. So, I mean, actually, obviously, you have this tremendous turmoil and, what do you do with your life? And I did, I went home and sulked for a couple of weeks and licked my wounds, but, you retract back into your sort of, you just put your family and friends around you and you think about what's important in life. But actually, it was... What I realised very, very quickly is it had doubled my determination, my hunger, my appetite to get back out there and make a success of something. So, chatted with Walt about it and said, what do we think about this use model? And actually, what we observed is that cash for mobile phone, ironically where we are now, and I know we'll come on to that, and cash for gold websites were around. They just launched, but nobody was doing cash for CDs, DVDs, and games. So we came up with this idea of, and Walt wrote some technology for valuing old product based on the barcodes. Mm-hmm. So you could just tap a barcode into the website, or preferably scan it with an app, which came slightly later. So you could just scan the barcodes, get a valuation, build a basket of product that you wanted to sell.
Oh, brilliant.
Excuse me. And basically understood, that there was great commercial value in that product because we could then refurbish it and resell it. Mm-hmm. So Walt developed the technology. I literally was in my garage picking, packing, wrapping, talking to customers at night. But actually it got to the stage with Music Magpie. So we were well underway. We'd borrowed a little bit of seed money from friends, and my dear brother-in-law, who the room next door to us here is named after. We were having some reasonable success, but basically the business couldn't provide me a salary. So I did have 3 kids by that stage. I just had my 3rd girl.
Congratulations.
So, it was a while ago now. She's grown up now. They all are. But you have to be a responsible family man at this point, where you think, actually, the business can't afford to pay me a salary. It can't give me any of the money back. I mean, at Music Zone, the headline was, I'd lost half the house in value in my money that I'd put into the PE transaction. And my dear lady and boss at home had supported me to basically put the other half of the house into Music Magpie. Oh, wow. So, had to be responsible, do the right thing. But I met Sanjay, who still owns the fragrance shop, and Percent, the retailer on Trafford Park there. And he just acquired the fragrance shop and was looking to turn it around, basically. He bought it as a loss-making business. And again, it had... At that stage, I think it was 70 or 80 stores, but somebody who, an experienced retailer, and of course I could take some of my team in there as well.
Okay.
So having met Sanjay on a Wednesday, it was like a David Gray song. We agreed the deal on a Thursday, and we didn't make love on Friday. I started on the Monday, and we started having great fun, and we were turning this business around. It was really hard work. Sanjay's a very uncompromising trader. Very, very driven. I learnt a lot from Sanjay in the time with him. But we got on great, and Sanjay knew that Music Magpie was going on in the background. Okay. I promised him faithfully that I would never let it interfere with my work at the fragrance shop, which I didn't. Yep. And he said, look, if you ever need to have a day off or do something in the evening, I understand. And actually, Magpie started to do this quite quickly.
Well, sorry to interject, but I have heard a story about Martin Lewis and the TV show where you were still working at the fragrance shop.
It was a famous day.
And Music Magpie was mentioned on live TV, and the site crashed because there was that many people.
That was there's been many surreal, famous days, big days in sport, we call them at Magpie, but that was perhaps one of the most surreal ones. So I'm in a meeting, and I can even remember it was Estee Lauder. Oh, nice. And I'd got to know all the fragrance industry brands. So I'm sat in a meeting, and my phone's buzzing away in my pocket. It's literally going every 2 seconds with a message. I'm thinking, what the heck's going on here? So I excuse myself, and I go to the toilet, and I get the phone out, and I've got 37 messages and 50 missed calls saying, you're on live TV. And I'm like, no, I'm in the toilets, Estee Lauder. And basically Martin Lewis was on the couch with Lorraine Kelly on GMTV promoting Music Magpie.
Wow.
Now we couldn't influence, dictate that. We couldn't predict it. He just literally come across the site,
Wow.
and there was a banner across the bottom of the screen that said, get up to £3 for your old CDs and DVDs. Now, the first thing that happened was everybody panicked. The second thing was the website fell over and smoke poured out of the server because we just weren't equipped for this. And, Lorraine Kelly saying, I'm going to go home and do that myself.
Wow.
The essence of the story was we went from buying 500 units a day to 17,000.
Wow.
Can you imagine the amount of scaling up that you have to do very quickly
Wow. Yeah.
at that point?
So at that point, if you don't mind me asking, how many people were working full-time on the business then?
Literally, there was probably only 6, 7 or 8. I mean, my dad was still involved as well somewhere. I dragged him out.
Still in the garage, was it? Or?
Yeah, no, we'd moved on from the garage by then. We were in a big yellow storage thing in Macclesfield. We had one shop,
Nice.
so the shop was downstairs and the website was being run from upstairs. So there was 6 or 7 or 8 people. My dear friend Craig, who's the unofficial third founder of Magpie, always calls it like Black Wednesday because he said this siren started of the tsunami of product that he could sense was now on its way to us with 6 people to handle it kind of thing. And indeed, 3, 4, 5 days later, the Royal Mail truck started arriving with, going from 1 cage of product coming in to 3 lorries arriving at the same time, full of product that we had to process.
Crazy.
So, a massive, massive day. But actually, it told us that the service that we'd provided with Music Magpie, if you went and told people, people would use it.
It's proof of concept, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so going back to the very early days then, there's obviously this sort of chicken and egg scenario. You are, in some essences, a marketplace. What was the major challenge? Was it like trying to get people to sell their products to you, or was it trying to, get people to purchase products off your website? What was the main and the hardest part of setting up the business?
Fascinating question there, because I'm asked it now, and I talk to other re-commerce is a reasonably niche still area of e-commerce, reverse commerce, if you like, people selling to you rather than you selling, which of course we do both now. But when I talk to others, they say the same thing I've always done. Our growth is restricted by what we buy. Now that was an instance with Martin Lewis example where a product flooded in. But the great thing was, and we've still got, my dear colleague here now, Ian, my CFO and COO, shows me graphs that says we sell 50% of our tech stock within 4 days. We can turn stock, refurbish it, and resell it very quickly because it's branded product in as good as new condition for a fraction of the price, and all consumer tech product, and I know I sound like a salesman now, but come with a 12-month warranty. So it's very popular product.
Yep.
So actually acquiring product is the challenge, and that has been the challenge. That said, I will caveat that slightly. So again, one of the most important days we had in those early years was we realised we couldn't just do the sales channels with our shops, our physical shops, which we had, and our own website sales. We needed the platforms to help us scale. And that was when we launched on both Amazon and eBay. And sitting here today, and this is perhaps the most surreal statement of all, we're the world's biggest seller in the history of both eBay and Amazon globally in any product category.
Amazing.
Because we've done all those, when I say tens of millions, I mean tens of millions of transactions, because that's what we did with all the refurbished product.
Brilliant.
And we used Amazon and eBay to scale the business.
And when did you decide to shift the business model from just your direct stores and your direct e-commerce to these platforms?
So 2016, we launched the Music Magpie shop online.
Okay.
And the website went from being just at that stage us buying product to selling as well. So if you go on there now, it says shop or sell, and that's the 2 halves of the website. And actually, it was also around that time where we started properly to pivot the business into consumer technology, in particular phones. Now, of course, if you think about that motivation to move a consumer from a platform to direct sale, if you're selling a £5 CD or DVD, Nirvana, never mind, it might not be £5, £4, £3.5. And if you think about the commission saving and what we can do to bring somebody across and migrate them across, well, actually, it's a 30, 40, 50 pence saving. Now, actually, a customer may stay on the platform and buy that. That's fine, no problem with that. But actually, on a consumer tech item, if it's £300, you may have £10, £15, £20 worth to play with, as it were, in commission and margin, etc. So actually, you can give some of that in discount to the consumer and bring them across. And sitting here now, over 85% of the mobile phones we sell off Music Magpie. that directly. So that's been a massive pivot and change in the business, as well as that move. So 65% of our turnover is now consumer tech products. So our old product is still in there, still an important part of the business, but we are mainly consumer tech now. Brilliant. But most of them are sold on Music Magpie.
Brilliant. And that leads nicely into the next question is around the name. So first of all, why Music Magpie? And secondly, do you think that Music Magpie, now that you specialise in consumer technology rather than just CDs, do you think that's played an impact or had an impact on the business at all?
So let me start by saying, because I met Russ, I mentioned Russ before from Music Zone. He was a big Newcastle fan, and he swears to this day I named it in some sort of tribute to Russ for being a Magpie. It's nothing to do with Newcastle United. A clever soul in creative and marketing, more clever than Walt and I. think he was a friend of Walt's, actually, Craig. And he came up with the idea, basically, of Music Magpie. I mean, anybody who's ever tried to set up a website will know the hellish few weeks you have of coming up with names, WhatsApping each other, and then going, oh, no, it's gone. Yeah. And even 14 years ago, it was hellishly difficult. But actually, coming up with Music Magpie, we were really CD, with a bit of DVD and a bit of game. Books came later, actually. So it was mainly disc media. But what we loved about the Magpie bit is that they collect shiny things from people's homes.
I like that.
So they go around collecting things. And we really like that concept. And it felt like a really good, memorable name.
Yeah, definitely.
Moving on, I mean, people ask me now, oh, do you think your name is, any sort of concern? Does it hold you back? Absolutely not. If I had my time again 14 years ago, would I have gone, in 14 years' time, we're going to end up being the UK's biggest mobile phone recycler? Will I call it Music Magpie? No. Does it bother me now? No, it absolutely doesn't, because I think people now understand there's a lot of brand trust, there's a lot of regard. We've got 7.5 million registered users.
Wow.
On Music Magpie now. I think people understand. I call it, we're sat here just over the taxi rank here, I call it the taxi test. So you get in the back of a taxi, all right, mate, yeah. What do you do? Music Magpie. Oh, Music Magpie. More than not now, the taxi driver will say to me, oh, yeah, you do phones, don't you? And that's like a little litmus test of, okay, the brand's getting now known out there for being that consumer tech specialist.
Definitely. And listen, I love the name, but I have heard this story of when you went over to America and you launched with Music Magpie. Yeah. And I think it was someone who worked within your business thought the magpie was actually a penguin. Yeah. Oh, you spoiled my punchline now. Sorry.
And it gets better with a glass of wine, actually, this story, because I start doing the accents. The deep south accent, actually, it's not too deep south. But she was a wonderful lady. She was our first ever customer services manager. And she'd worked for us for 3 months, and she came and asked me, what is a magpie? and I've got to do, just to set the scene.
Yeah, please do.
Anybody who can remember Tom and Jerry, the maid, she's called Mammy Two Shoes, I looked it up. The maid in Tom and Jerry, Thomas? So she sounded like her. So she comes over and she says, what is a magpie? So I said, that worries me. Why don't you know, after these months? And she said, I don't. I asked my mama last night. She didn't know. So I said, right, come with me. So I opened the laptop. And our website was on there, and I pointed at the cartoon magpie and said, what's that? And she said, it's a penguin. And I'm like, it's not a penguin. Why would we have a penguin on it? But they don't have magpies. They have blue jays. Okay. They understand penguins. So it was nearly Music Penguin. They don't have... Magpie isn't a word for most Americans. It's not that it means something else. They just don't have it in the dictionary.
Wow.
We did... just to finish that story off, because there's just a little extra to it. This is like the director's cut edition of this little story. I then asked everybody in out of the warehouse and said, I'm a bit worried about our brand name that we've launched here. So there was about 15 or 20 in the States at this stage. Does anybody know what this is on our website? One hand went up. It was a gentleman at the back, John. And I said, John, what is it? And he goes, it's a magpie. And I said, fantastic, John. How do you know that? And he said, I knew you were coming, so I looked it up on Wikipedia. And I'm like, that doesn't make me feel any better. No. So we did have to rebrand, and we rebranded it to Declutter 3 or 4 or 5 months later. Brilliant. And haven't looked back, actually. We did that quirky American thing where we took the last D out. So it's like Tumblr and Read Out and Flickr, so we got Declutter. And that's a great brand name. And again, there has been a thought process more than once about, do we take that brand name and bring it over here? But actually, as I say, the domain trust and authority that we've got in Music Magpie is so strong. It would be, I think the risk would now far outweigh any benefit that we'd get.
100%. And one thing I want to touch upon is the stores. So you had stores
Yeah.
when you very first opened.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then when did you decide to part ways with the stores then?
So in the timeline, it was 2018.
Oh, right, okay.
And I will always describe it as the easiest commercial decision we ever made. It was less than 10% of our overall sales. But obviously the challenges of the high street are well known now. It broke my heart. So whilst it was the easiest commercial decision, because they'd gone from a profit-making division to a loss-making division, it was the hardest emotional decision because there was over 200 colleagues involved. Some dear friends of mine. I mentioned Craig, the third founder. He was head of retail. And Craig left the business at that point. And, those people aspects are the one that really hurt you. But we had to do it.
Yeah.
And, goodness me, in the 4 years since then, that we now nearly are.
With the pandemic and...
Absolutely borne out, yeah. And also, as we start to think about PLC and public world, people got the story. They love the story, the online, the disruption, the growing ESG nature of it. I'm sure we'll come on to talk about a little. But they just said, shops, we're worried about these shops, Steve.
Yeah.
And, so we had to make that really hard, heartbreaking decision, but it was absolutely the right one.
Yeah. And then how long after that did you decide? Were you in America then as well as in the shops?
We didn't have any shops over there. We just had shops. So we had 30 odd shops in the UK.
Okay.
They were all branded actually. That's Entertainment. So they were a different name to Music Magpie.
And what was the reason for that? Then why did you not have them branded as Music Magpie?
It's really interesting. In the early days of the business, and the shops started growing from the early days. As I said, it was after my garage. It was the second home for the business in Macclesfield. We believed that we needed different brands for our buying to our selling, because if you're selling, I'm going to use Nirvana Nevermind again, for 50p, you were happy until you find out that we're selling it for £3, at which point you might go, oh, actually, I want, you can give me a bit more for it. And equally, the buyer of the £3 one. Now, actually, that didn't apply at all. When we tested it and started selling under the same brand name, it never created a moment's issue or problem. So actually, at that stage, we were selling on Amazon as Z Overstocks and on eBay as E-Stocks.
Okay.
And our shops were That's Entertainment. But 4, 5, 6 years ago, we started just bringing all those brands together. When we launched the direct store of Music Magpie and just said, no, we need, we tested it like everything.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing I've learned is be just fanatical about your customer and talking to them and researching and understanding. And that's what we did. We went and talked to them, just listened to them. And they said, no, if we're selling it, it's aggregating it, it's fast, it's easy, it's trusted. It's a one-box strategy of selling to you. We're not really too concerned whether we're, getting the 50 pence or the 60 pence for it.
That's it. Well, I've heard, I think you term it as the lazy man's eBay.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it resonates with people because I think, so many of us then go, I get your business now. Because it is that aggregating of stock. We're all time poor. 80% of the UK population won't sell on eBay. People will buy from it all day long. It's a wonderful platform. They're great partners to the business. And I do, I think, I fully acknowledge that if you want to sell your old mobile phone or indeed a CD and you want higher reward for higher effort, please sell it on eBay. They're a great platform to do business on. They themselves allowed businesses like our own to scale from something very small to where we are today. So, we are that aggregator, and we just make it, fast, easy, trusted.
And I suppose that, like you say, the trust is a huge part. For example, if I was a customer on eBay and I'm buying off another person, the phone hasn't been refurbished, it might come damaged, it might not come working.
Exactly.
I suppose with yourselves, there's some form of guarantee, isn't there? So.
Yeah, 12-month warranty. I always equate it to buying a used car, a BMW from the used BMW authorised dealership versus I'll show my age Arthur Daly, or somebody, a few streets away, private sale. If there's a problem, you've got trust in what's happening. It feels like, they will have refurbished, they will have checked it. They've done a 70-point quality check, which we've done on our phones. And if there is any problem, you've got somebody to go back to. We offer the FOC return. We'll swap it out for you. We'll repair it under warranty, or ultimately we'll give you your money back. So that word trust, I always say trust and technology, the two T's, are the two T's that have allowed us to scale and be flexible in the business. They are at the absolute heart of the business, but the trust is our relationship with consumers, whether we're buying from them, because at the end of the day, if you're posting off or sending off to us your 300 quid old phone, there is a leap of faith and an amount of trust with doing that. And it's the same if you're buying from us. You've got to trust us.
100%.
And we can't let you down.
Yeah, definitely.
So
in terms of the business at the moment, then you run off Amazon, eBay, and a few other second or reseller sites. And then obviously you've got your direct-to-consumer offering. What's the split in terms of direct-to-consumer via Music Magpie versus other sellers?
So I think a couple of just differentials to draw there. I think I mentioned before, over 85% of our mobile phones now in the UK are sold direct. To consumer. Physical media is much less so. That's probably just less than half still, because as we are migrating people across. But our relationship with our platforms are still really important. Amazon and eBay, we've sold to over 200 countries. We've sold a Jason Donovan CD to North Korea.
Nice.
We've sold, dare I say this, a Queer as Folk box set to the Vatican City.
Oh, really?
I promise you we have.
Wow.
We've sold across the world all sorts of different products and territories. So we've used Amazon and eBay. In the US, the declutter store is much less mature. So again, the platforms are still around half of our business.
Okay.
So overall now in that mix, we're about 50-50, but that's growing and that's really powerful and important to us as a strategy, is continuing to build that D2C.
Yeah. And what has your strategy been around marketing? Has it been in the past to drive consumers both to the platforms and to Music Magpie, or has it always been a focus?
Yeah. See, historically, we spent, if not 100, high 90% of our marketing budget driving people to our site to sell to us. That's really unique and really different, because most websites that grow up will have a B2B supplier of whatever they're selling, or they'll be providing a service that's their skill base or experience. And therefore, they will spend all their marketing bringing people to their website to use or buy that product. We were doing it to sell because the platforms were selling. Now we do both. We do market both sides of the business. I think I mentioned it, in talking about the Martin Lewis before, what that told us is if we put our offer in front of people, there was this great demand for it. So we used daytime TV really strongly in those early years. We were having a lot of housewives, people at home, students, selling to us. So that was a fantastic way to get the brand out there and get the domain name, etc., and get it known. And that was really powerful to us.
And they were TV adverts, were they?
Yeah, they were. Some people might remember we had one of the early ones was a lady on a settee, and there was we decided to put a cat in there. I can't stand cats, but it was like, go for the cute vote. And then the one after, there was a really famous one with a guy out of the IT crowd, which was like Buenos Aires, Tommy. And there was a stuffed magpie. We've still got him in the office somewhere. Stuffed magpie on the couch. And that advert was out there for a couple of years, and we spent a lot of money getting that advert out there, but again, it got the brand name out there and trusted.
Brilliant.
So it really served us well.
And I've heard when you moved over to the US, you tried to replicate the strategy, and that was using the sort of assets that you had in the UK for the US market, which proved to be a bit of a challenge.
Clearly, a myriad of learnings of doing business in the States, really, and apart from the brand name, don't be an idiot and try and launch a word that's not actually a word in American. But again, something Ian would say is, we could have spent, billions of dollars, millions of dollars on Super Bowl halftime adverts trying to get declutter out there. It wouldn't have costed in. We'd have plunged the business into heavy loss maker. Now, actually, we've met more than one person in the past who said, that's exactly how you need to do it. Just accept you're going to lose money for 3 years, get the brand known, etc. But of course, the country's so vast and wide. Which TV channels do you choose? How do you go about that? So actually, we've been much more measured, much more controlled with our marketing strategy, focused on bottom line, made sure that we've developed a profit-making division of our business, which it is, with marketing that's costed in, mainly through partnerships. So the market with phones in the US is very different. People trade in their old phone with the network, mainly. So we're partnering up with networks, with virtual network operators in being their trading partner, and also then influencers and 9 to 5 Mac and Apple Insider, etc., doing partnerships where they're driving their readership on an affiliate basis.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of it. Go back to my accountancy roots. I don't like blowing millions of dollars up a wall on a speculative advert. Show me something where I'm getting a return.
Data driven.
Where when we get the transaction, exactly that. I love my numbers. The detail is always, the devil is always in the detail of the numbers, and that always makes sense to me.
100%.
When we do the transaction, I'll give you the $10. That's work. That's fine.
I suppose the challenge though is brand, though, isn't it? Brand building alongside performance marketing.
Yeah, and as I say, I think where we are now, looking at the business. 3 years ago when we first started talking to public market brokers, America was our equity story.
Okay.
Now it's not. It's in there, and it's a big part of it because it's a massive market. We're doing a third of the activity of the UK and the US in a market 4 times as big. So it's a huge part of the story. But actually we've got other things going on in the UK that we really want to develop, take the learnings off, take the best bits, and then take them to the US.
Yeah.
So actually the US is a hugely important part of the story, but we're never going to plunge that business and division into loss making to power it forward. We'll develop the brand and make sure that we do it sensibly.
In the right way,
Yeah.
And it was the reason for moving to America due to wanting to list? Was that one of the reasons?
No, because it happened well before then, actually, Harry. It was, we launched in the States in 13.
Yeah.
We didn't meet a broker until 18 and 19.
Okay.
It was really just, part of that appetite for growth, those early years of growth, so forgive me, a Dragon's Den moment. So our growth in those early years went 500,000 in 08, 2.5 million, 11 million, 34 million, 63 million.
Wow.
So we were going up this tremendous
Huge
hockey stick.
yeah.
And actually, somewhere in that 30 to 60 journey, we thought that's not enough. And we'd done our first private equity deal. So we were starting to think about launching the alternative categories.
Okay.
And I say plural because we also did branded fashion as well as consumer tech. And we also launched the US business.
Oh, wow.
And that was really sort of, expanding the categories and the territories.
Yeah.
Because we were a massively ambitious business who was experienced profitable growth.
Definitely, yeah.
We thought business was easy.
And
guess what it isn't.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what were the main incentives and reasons that you wanted to list then? Why did you decide to do that, in this year?
So the official answer to that and the truthful answer to that is access to capital.
Okay.
It's a fairly textbook answer, but in our case, it is a big case of that. So outside in our reception here, you've probably seen it out there, we've got our new Smart Drop kiosk, which is making it even easier for people to sell mobile phones to us. So I mentioned competitors before. Actually, our biggest competitor with mobile phones, with us buying them, is people doing nothing.
Okay,
it's apathy and laziness of... so the average household's got 11 in drawers, 11 devices in their drawers. And you're going to nod now because everybody does it. I went in our electricity cupboard last weekend and found 4, and I was like, oh my God, even we're doing it.
I was going to say,
everyone's got Michael McIntyre does a routine about the man drawer.
I've seen it, that's
So, and there's 16 billion quid's worth. So we're trying to get them out of the drawers by making it, lazy man's eBay is great, but if you that's still too much effort or friction or whatever. If you can walk past one of these Smart Drop kiosks in the Asda foyer, whilst you're shopping and either do it there and then or bring it next time, you can sell your old phone in 2 to 3 minutes. You can get instant cash, you can pay for your shopping that day. 40% of people who are selling to us using the kiosk say they wouldn't have sold their phone to us. And they're selling us a phone that's 40% more valuable than the average phone that's sold to us because it's the added trust and the convenience of doing it. So it's revolutionising our buying. It's a really new, disruptive way of buying. We've disrupted ourselves. But, we needed some capital to roll them out. We also, on the other side of our business, on income, we've launched our monthly subscription scheme as an alternative to outright sale.
Oh, brilliant.
So it's an accessible, flexible way for people to rent a phone from us instead of buying.
Oh, nice.
And I thank my dear niece, who about 18 months ago said to me, She calls me Uncle O, not Uncle S. Work that one out. She said, Uncle O, do you not do a monthly scheme? And, because I don't want to pay 350 quid. And I said, I'll do a bit of, mates rate stuff. And she said, oh, no. So, but she basically got us thinking again. We went and talked to people and understood actually there was this great demand for a monthly service. So 50% of the people in the UK now have split their handset from their airtime. So people are moving away from just doing, dare I say, a lazy deal with the network, where it's 50, 60 quid, latest phone, and let's face it, you get probably a distinctly average data deal. So if you can now get a great quality handset from us for an average of £20 a month, although they start at $6.99 a month, and then you can add an airtime deal. For 15 quid a month, you can get unlimited data now. So you can pay £35 a month, have a great phone, better airtime deal, save money, and you can probably sell your old one to us and get some cash off the first couple of payments. So
brilliant.
We've launched that as well, but the one thing with that is capital intensive. Instead of selling that product for 350 quid, whatever it might be selling for, we're renting it out. So access to capital was really key. I guess we felt ready for the sort of the public exposure, and it's something that we're learning more about. But personally, I felt as if it was a great challenge, and in a sense, the final challenge for me. I've worked with private equity for many years. I've done all sorts of business experience, but really fancied the professional challenge of public.
Nice.
And also, I think just the reward that it brought for shareholders, our private equity, NVM were a wonderful partner to us. It gave them a return.
Brilliant.
And it was a great. It felt as well just, like the culmination of that 13, 14 year story. Now, actually, you could say in that, that's me done.
Yeah.
Far from it. I'm loving life. I've never been more excited and passionate and really fired up for what we're doing. And those, whether it's smart drop kiosks, we're also doing corporate buying. So we're partnering up with the likes of Deloitte to go and buy all their old devices across the country. Because, of course, there's huge ESG credentials in recycling your old phone, which I think is really important to consumers and corporates. We're doing our new monthly subscription, so there's loads going on. America's still a huge part of it, but we're far from done yet, and so am I.
Brilliant. So what would you say the main challenge has been then, from going from a private company with that sort of reporting into yourself essentially, to now being a publicly listed company where there's a little bit more exposure of the business?
Yeah, I think just on a personal level, I guess that it is you use the word public every day, and then you think, no, actually we are a public business, and you talking to you now, I have to be more careful about what I would say about where we're up to or how something's going than I might have done in a private previous ownership or equity situation. The private equity environment is you have people around your board table who you can have a conversation with once or twice a month, etc. But in public world, you are accountable. It's public money. It's institutional money. Doing the IPO itself, was a 6-month process that we did all virtually. Wow. It was a hell of a insane process to do through a screen virtually.
And is that how long it took then? 6 months from start to finish?
Slightly longer than that, from literally from start to finish. But we listed 22nd of April. We started meeting them, the brokers, sort of September, October time. Wow. You go through the round and one of the big attractions of doing it was, as I mentioned before, that sort of almost that masochistic desire to learn something new. It's tiring and intense, but it was a massive challenge to just go through that process and understand it and learn a new world. And it's been brilliant to do, I have to say. It's been really, really fascinating to do. I'm enjoying it very, very much.
So from your, it's 15. Near enough 15 years that Music Magpie has been going. So from the very first inception of the business to date, what's been the biggest challenge the business has faced?
Oh, blimey. I think scaling the business. I mentioned that graph early on where we scaled to 63 million in like our 5th year or 6th year or something. It levelled out in the 70s. So the mid 2000 and sort of 14, 15, 16, we were... Frankly, we hit a bit of a brick wall. Any business, God forbid I'll never run a marathon in my life, but it was a bit like, when you talk about hitting the wall in a marathon, you just get to that stage where, and actually the market dynamics were changing. Physical media, is still a big part of our business. Used media is in much more of a shallow decline than new media. But we recognised that the business had to future-proof itself for our health and welfare of all the people and the business itself. And I think it was that challenge of we need to pivot. As I say, actually, we tried to pivot in too many directions at the same time. We went America, we did branded fashion, we did consumer tech. Frankly, we executed at least two of them probably poorly. But we came through it. There were some hard yards in there.
Yeah.
It's great now. The business has gone to wonderful things, and people think, oh, look, Steve's... etc. But yeah, and that's where being a CEO and you need your closest, nearest and dearest professionally and personally around you to help you through those hard yards. When you don't know you're going to make payroll in 10 days' time, and you've got £1 million payroll to make for the best part of 1,000 people, that is pressure.
Yeah.
And that was probably the biggest, moments of, blimey, this is hard work, and this is, you need to be resolute and strong, and as I say, have nearest and dearest around you, and fantastic group of people, which I'm blessed with here.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So you're obviously doing very well, sort of personally, professionally. You've just listed the business. What's next for yourself? What's next for the business? Over the next 5-10 years, where do you see it going and becoming?
So again, probably have to be exactly careful about being too specific. But I mean, speaking on a personal level, I mentioned before, I still feel relatively young.
Yeah,
I've only just turned 50, so I'm crap at golf. So I'm never going to do that. Yeah. I'm here for a while longer yet. Bad news for that lot out there, because none of them can beat me at pool either. So they can't wait to get rid of me. No, on a serious note, I mentioned before, I'm really passionate and excited in what we're doing now. We've got the new strategies. The bigger vision that I have talked about publicly, etc., is something we call Magpie Circular, which is the ability for any brand or retailer to buy back their old product when selling new. And that's basically what we're doing, whether it be CD or DVD from those early days or now phones. It's trade in your old phone when buying a new refurbished one.
Yeah.
But you can upgrade constantly. Now, actually, if we can work with other brands, the whole world has woken up to the importance of being smart for the planet. That's our
100%.
Strapline, smart for you, smart for the planet, and making ethical decisions. And second-hand years ago was, dare I say, niche, and dare I say even more a bit grubby.
Yeah.
But now it's this smart, savvy,
it's trendy, isn't it?
Trend. You will tell your friends about it, etc. I've done something that was both smart for me. It's a branded product, fraction of the price, but it was smart for the planet. And I think, the world has now moved towards a bit. I reckon we were due a bit of luck, but both in terms of the move for the world to go online, but also to move to a more sustainable lifestyle. We've all woken up to it and the damage to the planet. And we're dealing in e-waste, recycling e-waste, which does, it's 70% of the toxicity of waste comes from electronic waste.
Wow.
So if we can lead that green agenda, we did the Mount Recycle More campaign. To do that is to lead the awareness of, don't leave it in a drawer. Don't do something meaningful and good with it, and do some, smart for you, smart for the planet.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really important. So back to the start of your answer, I want to really grow the business and look at what we're doing. Organic growth, really grow that rental scheme.
Yep.
I think it's so powerful. Look, what we've learned from that subscription scheme is, younger folk than me are a subscription real society now. They're doing the food, they're doing their content, music, people are renting houses more, I was reading those stats, etc., cars, etc. But if we can do that scheme, and that unlocks a real new level of relationship with the consumer, sticky relationship, because actually, sounds odd, one of our biggest strengths could have been one of our biggest weaknesses, where we sell them such a good refurbished phone, they don't need to buy another one for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
But if we can rent them one, we can now keep talking to them. Are you happy with that one?
Re-engage.
Do you want to change it? Do you want an enhanced package? Do you want some more accessories, etc.? So I think, that's very much where we see the future going. Disrupt our buying, buy from consumers using the kiosks, and buy from corporates, but also the new income model with the subscription.
Amazing.
I think really, really excited about the potential of those, along with the territories as well with the US.
Brilliant. And then I suppose one sort of final question to sort of wrap things up. Obviously, there's this, sort of boom of re-commerce, from clothing to, to technology. If someone was looking to start out and set up their own, platform for re-commerce, whatever, sort of industry that may be in, whether it is fashion, technology, what would be your best piece of advice for that person?
I think the timing is great for the reasons we talked about, the ESG. I mean, anybody setting up a business, I would say, don't underestimate just the sheer graft and the hard work, determination, and the sleepless nights you'll have. Too many people, I think, go into it and think, I've had a great idea, I'll have a go at it. You've really got to dedicate yourself to it. You've got to have exceptional support around you, both from your team and at home, and I'm blessed with both. So make sure you're in the right position to do it. Feel passionate about what you're doing. On a practical level and operational level, I would not discount the possibility at all of doing what we did. Use the platforms. They brought the world's eyeballs to us. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes it is a bit frustrating. You feel like you don't own your customer. Yep. You can't talk to them directly. You do have to pay them a commission. But in particular with somebody like eBay, they are a great partner. They're a great hosting platform for young businesses to grow and scale. Yeah. I would really encourage them to think about that. And then my final word would be really, I guess, don't think you need to be an expert in either every department of your business. Bring in smart people who will be. Never be scared about that. That's a bit of a cliche, but literally never be scared of bringing in somebody who's better than you in an area, because you'll learn from them. But also just, don't be scared about not thinking you need to be an expert in your product category. So if you were thinking about e-commerce in, I don't know, musical instruments, you may know about, God, I'm going off at a piece now. You may be an expert on guitars because you play guitar all your life, but think, I can't do pianos, I know nothing about pianos. Go and talk to somebody who's a piano expert and go and say, if I partner with you and I bring you some customers type thing, can we, get together here and, don't think you've got to be an expert in everything you do. I think that's something really, really powerful. We launched Lego on our site 2 or 3 years ago. Oh, wow. Just as an example of another product category. Now, actually, for a while, we were fishing in the stuff that we bought and we'd go, I think that figure's worth 50 quid because it's a fireman sandwich. And it's like, what we're doing, just resell the product as it is. Yeah. Just buy it by weight, resell it by weight, service the consumers who want to sell. They've done with their old Lego. The kids have grown up. They just want somewhere fast and easy and trusted to sell it, and then equally just resell it to somebody who wants to buy it, and it's fast and easy and trusted. So keep it simple, and don't overcomplicate your business. Brilliant. Well, there we go. What a great bit of advice. Brilliant. Well, all we can say is thanks very much for coming on today's episode. We, absolutely amazing to chat to you. Thank you. And it's been great. Thank you. Yeah, unbelievable to hear the story of Music Magpie. Yeah, I think we got everything in. Just about. We got the penguin story in there. Brilliant. No, that's great.